Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the All Star Wrestling Review Series. This is a New Year's Eve, 1978, so 12/31/77. Vince McMahon hosting the program, this All Star Wrestling program, with Larry Zbyszko, with a public service announcement about fighting juvenile diabetes. I'm not sure why that was the disease that everybody keyed in on at the time, but there's more than one of these during the late 70s, early 80s that wrestlers are big about, and maybe it was just a push nationally about that particular disease. But anyway, McMahon also conducts a ringside interview with Freddie Blassie and the tag team champions Tanaka and Fuji. We open up with Tony Garea, Larry Sharp. Um, the bout goes 10 minutes, time limit draw after the bout. Sharp attacks Garea until Garea is able to clear Sharp from the ring, and the referee gives him the decision. Um, I don't necessarily understand the referee giving the decision away concept, which seems to be a pretty major thing. It just strikes me as weird, but it seems to come up a lot in this particular era. Of course, Larry Sharp eventually opens one of, if not the first wrestling school in the country, certainly the first wrestling school in the tri-state area for sure. Nice go-behinds and basic stuff. Garea, of course, former tag team champion with multiple partners. Beautiful wrestling if you really like the art of just holds and counter holds, drop toe holds into, roll-ups and other such things. Side headlock takeovers and the basic stuff. Really enjoyable match from that perspective. I actually like this type of wrestling even now, going back to the 60s and 70s, when guys make each hold look like it matters and give the announcers a chance to tell it like it's a story of an actual fight. I prefer that over the high-flying stuff that is normal today. Even if everyone says it's boring, at least, a guy cinching up on an arm or cinching up on a leg, trying to bend something a certain way. It looks like it hurts. And again, guys like bridging and trying to use facial expression. That's the art of wrestling, which is, for the most part, died or is dying in the process of dying. Anyway, back and forth. Garea gets back to his feet again, several times back to the side headlock and continuing to control the arm. Then goes into a wrist lock, and the match continues from that perspective. Sharp is pretty aggressive, does come back to the arm very basically, also tries to get a submission almost out of a neck cravat, and kind of works the head and works the hold for several minutes, does Sharp. Sharp not willing to take a backward step, and also rolls his man into a neck cravat and very basic things there. Ultimately, we see a good run that way, and Garea gets the victory, and obviously there is the continued fight on there. We see a run towards a Bob Backlund match coming up here pretty quickly soon thereafter. Of course, Backlund winning the World Championship in early 1978. Terry York is his opponent. Atomic Drop is the winning combination, and in just under 5 minutes, hair under 5 minutes, 4:59 to be exact in this particular match. Backlund really trying to use the overt nature of a sportsmanship approach to things, is pretty aggressive here. Backlund also does use the collegiate style wrestling learned primarily in Florida and in his school days in Minnesota as well. York goes to the ropes a couple of times, forcing the break of things like arm bars that are put on by Backlund. Backlund gets caught with a couple of short shots in the side of the head and other stuff here. Nothing necessarily wonderful to write home about, but at the same time, a lot of shots along the way, and then we see again, a kind of an inverted wrist lock on Backlund. I love when guys sell holds that actually look like it hurts. If you try to turn someone's wrist the wrong way, it's going to hurt. Backlund, of course, gets the win with the atomic drop. Then we go to the interview of the program with Classy Freddie Blassie, basically comparing Fuji to being one of the most important names in all of American history, and comparing Fuji to Japan. Of course, Fuji being portrayed as Japanese, even though he's Hawaiian. The tag team champions saying that they are in fact ready for any and all challengers. No one can stop them, and etc. and so forth. Then we move to and Blassie's jacket is kind of a yellowish orange, somewhere between a canary and an orange peel. Amazing jacket there. Then we move to the next in the series of matches. This time we've got Mil Mascaras and Frankie Williams in 524, flying body press by Mascaras. Of course, Mascaras, man of 1,000 masks, man of 1,000,000 masks, and a guy who I did not realize spent as much time in the area during the 70s as he actually did. Obviously can't go to Madison Square Garden, so it doesn't really make a lot of sense to promote him so strongly in Pennsylvania and surrounding areas, although maybe there were strong Latin markets in the area at the time. Regardless, tip-ups on a couple of takedowns, and Mascaras works the leg quite a bit, which a lot of people think Mil Mascaras, because he's luchador and Latin American and major part and foundation of Lucha Libre for a good bit of time, that he would be a guy who doesn't do a lot of holds, but he wrestles the majority of the match around the hold, specifically kind of leg picks and trying to get submissions here, eventually taking the win with the flying body press. But a match worth going out of your way to see, to kind of remind ourselves that that athletic style is there. Ken Patera, eventually the man who becomes a second Intercontinental Champion of all time, with Captain Lou Albano, defeats Pete Austin via submission bear hug 229. Back-to-back weeks, there's only two versions of the All-American program on 477 at this time. Patera, of course, having the Olympic rings because he's part of the Pan Am Games and other world competitions for powerlifting, weightlifting, and the like. Patera, a little bulky, of course, coming out of the 72-73 era class of the AWA Wrestling School. Of course, Ric Flair coming out of the same class. Just interesting to me to kind of look at that. Patera takes his man down, knee drops and other basic things. Lou Albano looking so much different here in 77 than he ends up looking at the end of his career. He goes through fatter stages, thinner stages, and all points in between. Of course, the power being used by Patera, the major fact of, bringing things forward, and he gets the victory in just under 3 minutes with the nature of the bear hug. And then we go to the final match of the day. Dominic DeNucci, of course, former multi-time tag team champion, against Jack Evans, not the Jack Evans who flits around like a loose straw on AEW, but a Jack Evans who actually looks like and competes like a wrestler, wearing a singlet and other such things. Anyway, we see DeNucci going fast after his opponent, and Evans covering up, basically feigning injury, doesn't really want to get in there too much, doesn't want to be around too much, and again, we kind of see some shoulder tackles there, and ultimately, we get DeNucci managing punch kick, very basic style by DeNucci, but he ends up being one of the most beloved guys, partially because the Northeast market, which was so Italian-driven, certainly loved him because of that heritage that he held. And DeNucci obviously gets a victory. That's not a big surprise, getting a victory by disqualification when not Mike Sharp, but Larry Sharp pushes the referee Dick Worley into DeNucci, and that leads to a victory there. We'll be back with more of these, by the way. There's several more of these, probably about 100 or so in total, across 76 through, or 75 through 1980, eventually hoping they put through 85 up, but who knows. Anyway, we'll be back with more right after this.